As Dr. Prier mentioned, I'm the co-curator for the Textures exhibition. It's currently up at the Kent State University Museum, and it was opened September the 10th is when we opened. The curation of this project happened between myself and my partner, Dr. Joseph Underwood. He is an amazing art historian. He's one of the professors at Kent State University in our art department, and has done some magnificent work. And when I got a chance to partner with him, I just knew he was going to be the perfect partner to work with me on this project. And the work that I've been doing over many years, really since I was a master's student at Michigan State, the work about Black hair started for me in 2002. The reason why I was so interested in it is because Black bodies for generations have been animalized. And there's been this disdain that society has had with Black hair and Black bodies. Over time, we've come to understand through research that many times Black bodies, from the start of enslavement, Black bodies were referred to as animalistic. Hair in particular was referred to as wool instead of actual hair. And that began this series of this derogatory reaction that many people have had towards Black hair. There were many stereotypes that were developed during the enslavement about Black bodies. And some of those include this image that you see at the top. It's called a coon image, or you might also call it some other kind of, I can't remember the name of it, but coon is one of the names that they use. This one in the middle is Jezebel. The image on the right is a cartoon of someone called, well, her name was Sarah Bartman. Sarah Bartman was, if you don't know about her, she has a really, really amazing story. She was subjectified in festivals and circuses in the 1900s, and she unfortunately was misled to believe that she was going to become famous when she came to the US, and instead she was objectified. Her body was objectified, and for many years a museum in France kept her body parts on display. So again, animalistic body types of references, stereotypical types of references towards Black bodies. In regards to hair, not only were bodies objectified, but the hair was also objectified, and it was oftentimes forced on Black people to have to manipulate their hair in order to be acceptable in society. So after slavery was abolished, Black people had to become employable. And one of the ways in which Black people became employable was by having to straighten their hair. People such as Madam C.J. Walker, she was a prolific person in the economic development of Black people. She was one of the first millionaires, Black millionaires, and she created hair products. And her hair products in particular were specifically for making Black people employable, making it so that Black people could straighten their hair and if they needed to, even lighten their skin, because that was also something that was required of Black people in order to become employable. They had to straighten their hair and they had to lighten their skin tone. Companies such as Lucky Brown also made products so that Black people could become, quote unquote, acceptable to society by having to straighten their hair and lighten their skin tone. This was something that was a means of survival for Black people, but there were also people during that time that were fighting against that, such as activist Marcus Garvey. He is known for making the quote, "take the kinks out of your mind and out of your hair," basically meaning trying to get Black people to understand that they don't have to assimilate in order to be a better person, in order to be employable, instead of, having to go along with what society was telling them that they had to do. So it's been controversial for a very long time. today Black bodies are still animalized and over-sexualized. LeBron James was featured in Vogue several years ago, and as you can see, the cover of this Vogue magazine looks very similar to the cover and advertisement for the King Kong movie. It's on this side, on the blue, that's an illustration of Serena Williams when she was at the French Open. This particular artist portrayed her as this animalistic, angry kind of person. If you recall, during that particular match, she got frustrated because of how the calls were being made during that. And so because of the fact that she spoke up for herself, she was then referred to as being an angry Black woman. That's another stereotype that Black people have had to deal with. Again, being over-sexualized in music videos, and this is something that unfortunately started off as a result of enslavement, but then has been perpetuated in the Black community. H&M, I'm a professor of fashion. I was a professor of fashion for many years, and H&M has been one of the companies, just one of them. There are many, many fashion companies that have gotten in trouble because of discriminatory references that they've made to Black people in regards to being animalistic, and H&M is one of those. If you don't know about this particular commercial that they did, they featured this little Black boy in this green sweatshirt, and on the front of the sweatshirt it says, "Coolest monkey in the jungle." Right, so again, it's been a fight that Black people have been dealing with for quite some time. So Black beauty is still being questioned, and so we continue to suffer forced assimilation. Black women in particular are still being forced to have to straighten their hair. When they go into employment, different places, particularly if you're going to be on television, like as a news anchor, those women oftentimes are forced to straighten their hair or to cover up their natural hair. So hair texture like mine would not be acceptable in most places on television. The women would be forced to have to wear a wig. Brittany Knowles, she's just one example of news anchor women that have been fired from their jobs because they chose not to wear a wig. They wanted to wear their natural hair. It's been a movement for quite some time now. WOIO Channel 19 just did a special with us at Textures where they had I think it was a 45-minute long special where they talked about the need for society to be more open-minded about Black women being able to wear their hair on television. The Black community is still brainwashed, and so we voluntarily assimilate. So this is a problem, like I was saying. Not only has this assimilation been forced upon us, but it's also been something that we've been perpetuating ourselves because of the fact that we've been brainwashed for so long. And so people such as pop artists Nicki Minaj and Beyonce have done different types of manipulations to themselves, such as skin lightening, body enhancement, wearing wigs, adding extra things to themselves that are just not natural, just so that they can be perceived as beautiful. Stress and anxiety and hair loss are some things that Black women in particular deal with in regards to their hair. In 2016, the Perception Institute conducted a study called the Good Hair Study, where they found that Black women suffer from stress, they suffer from anxiety because of issues that they've had with their hair, being discriminated against because of their hair. There's been issues in regards to family separation. There is even this concept called good hair. So the study was named after this phenomenon that we still have in the Black culture called good hair, where people who are Black, who have naturally straighter hair, that particular hair texture is considered quote unquote good, whereas people who have kinkier hair, that particular hair texture is considered to be bad hair. And there's been this internal battle that Black women have had and still continue to have about their hair. The middle image is an illustration done by Couture Ariel. She's actually one of the artists in the Textures exhibition. Her piece is called Internal Battle. And when I first found out about this particular piece, I discovered that it was actually what's called a meme on social media. So there was images on Facebook and Instagram, and there was arrows pointing to either side of the hair. So on this side of the head, there was an arrow, and on this side of the head, there was an arrow. This side said Black girls before the gym, and this side said Black girls after the gym. So Black women have had to decide whether or not they're going to keep themselves in physical good shape by exercising, swimming, and those kinds of things. But they oftentimes will not do those things so that they can maintain this societal perception of beauty. Instead of just being who they naturally are and being able to take care of their bodies, they would prefer many times to maintain this, which means that they don't exercise, they don't swim, because they want to maintain that straight hair look. Textures was conceptualized from years of my own personal hair trauma as a Black woman. I've faced hair loss on several different occasions because of my attempts to assimilate into what society says beautiful is. Before I started wearing my natural hair, I've been natural now since 1998 is when I became natural and was just wearing my natural hair. But before then, I had perms, I had all these different types of chemical treatments that I did to my hair, and as a result, lost my hair on 3 different occasions because of that. In my research that I've been doing, like I said, since 2002, about the social psychological aspects of Black hair, looking at self-esteem and how Black women perceive themselves in regards to their hair, and then just my desire, this burning desire that I have to want to deconstruct this whole idea of what Black hair means to our society. And with the partnership of Dr. Joseph Underwood as an African art historian and curatorial expert, he and I together, we were able to create this amazing exhibition. And I just spoke about that just a moment ago, about the trauma, the research, and the social deconstruction of Black hair, the stigma. And Dr. Joseph and I, when we did this particular project, we wanted to tell as much of the story as we possibly could. There's no way that we can definitely tell the entire story about Black hair because it's a lot more complex. There's a longer history, than what we could tell, but we wanted to do our best to tell the story. So we looked at the concepts of Black hair from 3 different themes: community and memory, hair politics, and Black joy. So when you go to the exhibition, you'll see that it's divided into 3 separate sections. Community and memory. For many Black people, their hair is woven into memories of mundane cleaning and care, highlights of self-discovery, a sense of belonging within or alienation from social circles. And when you go to the exhibition, these are some of the items that you'll see. The artistry of ancient Egyptians. Black hair, if you don't know, goes back to ancient Egyptian times. Braids and other cornrows and other types of hairstyles that Black people wear started in ancient Egyptian times. We have beautiful photography from artists such as Hector Habisses, who goes into several different types of tribes and within the West African regions and take these beautiful pictures. This is the Fulani woman. This particular image, this is a showcase of what women who are a part of the royal family, how they will wear their hair. Also, too, we were blessed to be able to get a partnership with someone. His name is Dr. Willie Morrow. Dr. Morrow is a legend in the hair industry, and he's also the person who has the largest collection of Black hair artifacts in the nation. And he allowed Dr. Joseph and I to partner with him, and we have about 100 pieces from his collection. And we also partnered with the Indiana Historical Society, who has the largest collection of Madam C.J. Walker artifacts as well. And in community and memory, it was really important for us to not only just show some of the artifacts, but also look at some aspects that are really relevant to Black community. And this particular image of a demonstration of how to use a hot comb. Most Black women have probably had a hot comb in their hair at one point or another in their lives. And so this is something that's very, very reminiscent and ingrained in our memory as Black people. You can still smell, I'm sure many people who've experienced this can still smell the grease and the burning hair. It's ingrained in our memory, right? Absolutely, right? And yes. And Annie Lee is one of those images that is one of those artists whose work is synonymous also with Black hair culture. If most Black women, when they go into beauty salons, they've seen one or two of these pieces of artwork from Annie Lee. And Dr. Joseph, like I said, he's a African art historian, a curatorial expert, and he is used to working with very high-end fine art. And when we were in the process of curating the show, I told him, I said, we really have to have one of Annie Lee's prints in our show. And he was like, well, I don't get it. She's not a high-end artist. And I was like, that's true. That's absolutely true. However, she's so important to the Black culture. She's so important to Black beauty salon culture. And so once I explained that to him, he said, absolutely, we have to make sure that we have a piece of her work in our show. And Devin Shimiyama's work, you have to see it up close. It's absolutely beautiful. It's a mixed media piece. And he actually created this piece just for our show. And I won't tell you any more about it. You just got to go to the show and take a look at it. It's beautiful. Also in community and memory, you'll see this piece by Mary Sabande. It's actually the largest piece that we have in the show. It takes up the majority of the space in the gallery. And Mary Sabande is a South African artist. So we were very adamant about being able to tell, like I said, the breadth and the depth of the story about Black hair. So Black hair is not only something that's relevant to the United States, but it's relevant across the African diaspora. So any place in the world where there has been colonization, Black hair struggle is very relevant. And in South Africa, that's also an example of that. Mary Sabande is from South Africa. So this piece came to us all the way from South Africa. And Mary Sabande has this alter ego that she calls Sophie. And so she does these beautiful sculptural pieces where she helps to elevate Sophie. Sophie is a representation of 3 generations of domestic workers in her family. And so in this particular piece, Sophie's in conversation with Madam C.J. Walker because Mary Sabande wants to be able to help elevate Sophie so that she can learn more about Black economic development. In regards to hair politics, Black hair is an unavoidable visual signifier that has been leveraged, disdained, celebrated, and scrutinized for centuries. In the Black hair politics section of the show, you'll see these works. The Black hair flag was probably one of the very first pieces that we chose for this particular theme. It needs really no explanation. For those of you that are not familiar with Black hairstyles, the American flag that's woven on top has used 2 traditional African types of hairstyles. The lines of the flag or the stripes of the flag were created by something called cornrows. In the United States, we call them cornrows, but if you're in the Caribbean, we call them cane rows. The name of the hairstyle comes from the agricultural jobs that enslaved peoples had in that whatever region they were. So in the United States, we grew corn, so they're corn rolls. In the Caribbean, they grew sugar cane, and so they called them cane rolls. The stars were actually created by a West African hairstyle called Bantu knots. And Bantu knots is something that's very traditional in several West African cultures. Dr. Joseph and I were adamant about not having a hair politics part of the show without talking about the contributions of Angela Davis and the Black Power movement and how they contributed to Black hair. Charlie Palmer is an amazing artist, and he has this whole series called Battleship. This particular piece is Battleship number 3. When you go into the exhibition, you'll get a chance to see it. It's a big, beautiful piece. And Charlie Palmer is really getting at the idea that Black people, Black women in particular, still have this battleship going on, this internal battle going on in regards to how they are representing themselves and to society in regards to beauty. So as you can see, instead of the painting having hair, there's this huge battleship on her head. Also in hair politics, that whole concept of good hair, we talk about that as well. Nakia Brown is one of the artists that we selected for this part of the show. She has an entire collection of pieces that's within this series called The Refutation of Good Hair. In this particular series, she did photographs of a variety of different types of Black women with different types of Black hair textures. And in all of her pieces, either the Black women are either ingesting hair or either they're vomiting up the hair. So as if to say, if this hair is quote unquote good, then I should be able to ingest this hair. Absolutely, right? Yes, April Bay is another one of the artists, and actually we have an event coming up with her on March 4th. So if you're interested, please check out our website. You will find a link. It's going to be a virtual event. April Bay is one of our artists who is one from the Caribbean. So she was inspired by this movie that came out in 2009 called Good Hair. It was produced by comedian Chris Rock. The movie had some mixed feelings about it when it came out. Many Black women were very upset with Chris Rock, myself included, obviously April Bay included. Because when Chris Rock did the movie, he told the story about Black women wanting to wear their hair straight and wanting to have like extra hair added on, which we call weave or wigs or whatever, but he didn't really go into the reasons why that is. All the hurt and the pain and the struggle that Black women have had to deal with, he doesn't talk about those things, but he basically airs our dirty laundry without giving any history about why that's so significant to us. Black joy is a celebratory representation of self-love and cultural pride related to the concept of Black excellence. Black joy foregrounds aspirational imagery that expresses the magic, wonder, and spirit of thriving while being unapologetically Black. And this was very important to me as a Black woman because many times Black people have to apologize for who they are. They have to, again, assimilate into society in order to be considered acceptable. In this particular part of the exhibition, you'll see images of actually not images of, but actually the real diplomas from Poro College. Annie Turbo Malone, she was one of the first millionaires also too. She was actually Madam C.J. Walker's educator. She educated Madam C.J. Walker in the business of Black hair care. And Annie Malone also had the very first Black beauty school called Poro College. And so we were lucky enough from Dr. Willie Morrow's collection to be able to get a few of the diplomas and licenses from Poro College that the Black women were able to get at that time. We have original Madam C.J. Walker products. Dr. Morrow, he also not only is a collector, but he started off his career as a barber in the 1950s. And the way that I actually learned about him was through his book, 400 Years Without a Comb. So he's a collector, he's an author, he's a barber, and he's also an inventor. So the hair products that you see on the bottom called California Green, those are products that Dr. Morrow invented. And he's just an amazing person, a great representation of really a legend in the hair industry. His daughter, Cheryl Morrow, is continuing on his legacy with the work that she's been doing. But 400 Years Without a Comb is probably still, to date, one of the most comprehensive pieces of literature that you can find about Black hair history. Black hair history, as you all know, as I just told you, it did not start with slavery. Black hair history started beyond slavery when Africans were in Africa, in their tribes. Black hair has always been a means of identity for Africans. And so Dr. Morrow talks about that in his book. Also in the Black Joy part of the exhibition, you'll see these amazing works. These are 3 of my absolute favorite pieces in the show. What I love about these works is, especially this piece by Delita Martin, is called The Light. And then this piece on the other side, Masa Zontros, is called Femme Totem Blue. What I love about these pieces is that it not only allows Black people to see the pride in Black hair as a part of their bodies, but Black hair is also something that is very dear to us in regards to our spirituality. For everyone, hair is the closest thing that we have to the heavens. And both of these artists, Masa Zontros and Delita Martin, represent that in their artwork. Dr. Joseph and I were ecstatic that we were able to get a piece from Kehinde Wiley in our show. If you're not familiar with Kehinde Wiley, please look him up. He's a Nigerian artist. Very famous artist right now, especially the type of fame that he's able to have right now is very uncommon for Black artists. This man has been able to have a prolific art career even before he has been deceased, right? So people such as Basquiat is another Black artist, but his fame really didn't come to him until after he was long gone and passed on. But Kehinde Wiley has been able to have some tremendous success in his career. And so for us to be able to get a piece from Kehinde Wiley in our show was just something that just blew our minds. We never would have ever guessed that we would have been able to get one of those pieces. Kehinde's pieces are typically 10 to 20 foot wide and tall. When you go to the exhibition, you'll see that it's actually one of the biggest pieces that we have in our show. He is also the artist who did the portrait of President Barack Obama. So that's one of the ways that you'll be able to learn more about the work of Kehinde Wiley. And I mean, he was famous before he did President Obama's portrait, but after he did that portrait, his career just absolutely blew up. And I just found out, we just sold out of the Textures book here. The last 2 copies were just purchased. So unfortunately, if you're interested in purchasing one of the Textures books, they're not available here right now, but you can contact Kent State University's museum. If you decide you want to go and visit the exhibition, you can go to Kent State University and they have them available in the gift shop. Also, if you are patient enough, you can also purchase it on Amazon. However, I just looked it up when Alex told me that there were no more available here. And Amazon has them, but they don't promise to get it to you until April 24th. So this book is an award-winning book. We have received an award. We also just received honorable mention for the book. And so we're actually in our 3rd print of the book. So it's done fabulously. We're really excited about that. And today I actually brought a couple copies of Make Fear Your Superpower, which is an empowerment memoir. I'm an empowerment speaker, and often I speak about Black beauty in the sense of not just art, but also to empowerment. And in this book, I have a whole chapter that's called Fear of One's Own Beauty, where I talk about the fact that Black people in particular have had to deal with societal discrimination in regards to their beauty and having to fear their own beauty and needing or feeling as though they have to assimilate in order to be accepted. If you would like to get in touch with me, here's my information. If you would like to get in touch with Dr. Joseph Underwood, his information is here as well. And thank you. I'm not sure how much more time we have. I think it's about 5 minutes. Okay, good. All right. If I would love to take any questions that you might have, or anybody have any questions or any comments? Yes.
I don't know if it's a question, but in my research and studies, we're the only group of people that can never assimilate. But we try very hard.
Absolutely. Well, honestly, okay, if you didn't hear what she just said, she said we're the only group of people, meaning Black people, who cannot assimilate. Really, most people of color cannot assimilate. Asians tried to assimilate into westernized beauty by getting jaw surgery to because most of the time Asian people have, depending on what their cultural heritage is, their face is a little bit rounder, but they want to have a westernized look, so they'll get jaw surgery, they'll get eyelid surgery, so there's this overall standard that affects all people of color, that they want to fit in with this westernized type of beauty, but really no one can truly assimilate. They try, but they really can't. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the struggle right there. That's where the stress comes in, is because people so badly want to assimilate, but they really can't. They can just be who God made them to be. So, yes.
You mentioned earlier in your discussion about the importance of the identity of the hairstyles in relationship to the tribes of Africa.
Yes.
Is there a plan or a thought that you're having to create another publication that would illustrate the various tribes and the hairstyles that they utilize?
Actually, Dr. Morrow's book, 400 Years Without a Comb, has done that already. This book here, yeah, he talks about lots of different tribes and the symbolism. Oftentimes in Africa, tribes will have certain hairstyles that are very customized to that particular tribe. So if you're familiar with these tribes, you can actually tell what tribe they belong to by the way that they wear their hair. You can also tell, did you need something to drink? You okay? Okay. You can also tell that what their status was in their tribe. So if they are a widow, or maybe they're a new mother, or they're a bride, or maybe they might be mourning, you can tell that all through the way in which they wear their hair. A perfect example, if you're familiar with the Maasai tribe. Maasai, they are in Tanzania, they're in Mali, so they kind of stretch across Africa. But if you've ever seen a Maasai warrior, Maasai warriors, they have a very particular way that they wear their hair. So that work has been done through 400 Years Without a Comb. Yes. Any other questions? Thank you. Yes.
Can you talk about your experience with the photography students?
Oh yeah. The Links did a project with the photography students. The students learned over a course of how many weeks? It was like an 8 week program. The students and last year my little boy was a part of that class too, but the students get a chance to learn how to use cameras, take photos, and they learn from a professional photographer. This year they even got a chance to learn more about how to develop film and that kind of thing as well. And this particular year, they were inspired by the Textures exhibition, and so the topic that they chose this year for photographing, it was all about Black hair. So they did imagery of people with different types of Black hairstyles. They also did still life pieces of tools that people use to style black hair, but their show is downstairs on the basement level. If you would like to take a look at their show, they did some amazing work, those young people did. Yeah. Mm-hmm.